Hey everybody, this is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com. We're back with this week's new comic book reviews. A pretty decent sized stack. A lot of new books this week. Lots of new number ones. And some returning stuff. But first, something special. I saw this at San Diego. Abrams Books has put this out. It's the first of 3 hardcovers for the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror comics that Bongo did. They were specials, and so what this is, they are collecting all the great stories from over the years at Bongo, and it's done a really nice job with presenting them. They're not in any particular order, but this is a good start off for those, because they were really special books. I mean, Bat and Lash did some. Bernie Wrightson did one. He did it with Len Wein as the writer, and they were really good stuff. And it's a really good deal. It's like a 400-page reprint, and it's only $40 list price, cover price. So it's a really good deal. So if you're a fan of The Simpsons, and especially a fan of the Treehouse of Horrors. Oh, and I must point out, Bill Morrison really oversaw that, and he was the one that got all the great artists and writers to do it. There's even a story written by Ozzy Osbourne, which was pretty wild. Oh no, I'm sorry, it's Alice Cooper. But it's really a lot of fun, and they just everybody just went wild, and it's really great. I definitely recommend it. It's a really nice hardcover, and like I said, they plan on doing 2 more, so that will collect all of the Treehouse of Horrors. So in regular books, first up we have Batman One Bad Day, The Riddler #1, written by Tom King, with artwork by Mitch Gerards. So what it is there's going to be every month, this is the first month, so August, through, I believe, January, February, there's going to be a one-shot like this, centering on one specific villain, and each book is done by a different creative team. So this first one's done by King and Gerards, and it's really dark. I think what's interesting is it's not labeled as a black label. It's just regular DC book, but it's definitely really disturbing. It starts off that Riddler just basically kills this guy for no particular reason, and he waits for the cops to show up to arrest him. And he really just wants to meet, he wants Batman to come to talk to him. And it kind of goes where Batman's just like not wanting to talk to him, and Commissioner Gordon, they're trying to hold him in Arkham Asylum. He's killing guards and stuff. It's really just very psychological. It's really wild. And also it really reveals Riddler's origin. Not so much that it was really, it was when he was a kid, he grew up, he was super smart, and he went to this boarding school, and he was almost too smart, and because he was so smart, he felt like he needed to, he cheated on a test, he got caught, and he ends up killing the professor. So it's kind of, that's the beginning of him becoming, disturbed. And it's really quite fascinating. Like I said, it's a very psychological story. And then Jared's artwork is absolutely amazing. I mean, what more can you say? I mean, he did Mr. Miracle, he did Strange Adventures, and him and King are just like, they're like peanut butter and jelly. They just go together so well that it's really, I know trust me, there's a ton of Batman books that come out every single month, but this is really spectacular. I'm really excited that they're doing different creative teams, and they're doing different characters each month. I think it's really fascinating. Now, once again, I think they're gonna vary, but like just the talent they've got lined up seems really strong. So this is a must buy book this week. Next up we have Barbaric Act to Grind #1, written by Michael Morsi, with artwork by Nathan Gooden. So this is a follow-up to the first Barbaric miniseries. So you have Owen, who's the barbarian with his talking axe, who gets drunk on blood, and so Owen can only kill people that are basically bad. He just can't go out and kill random people because of the magic of the axe. So that's always fun. And then a drunk axe is always fun. It starts off where they're killing vampires, and the axe is like, I don't know, this blood's kind of weird. I'm not liking this. It's kind of making me sick. So that's the other thing, that the axe is a real smart ass. So you also have Steel, who is a vampire. And I don't want to give too much away, but that's the reason they're battling the vampires, to basically free him. And then you have Soren, who's the sorcerer, the wizard, the witch, and basically, so what it is by they end up killing the head vampire. But they also go on a journey, and obviously this journey is being looked upon by the villain of this story that we just get a glimpse of at the end of this first issue. I really liked the first miniseries. It was really solid, and this is a good follow-up. Now, there was a special that came out a few weeks ago that was... The story was pretty decent, but the art was not good. So thankfully, Gooden is back on the book. He's really a fantastic artist, and he's done a really wonderful job. And it's a lot of fun. It's kind of like a Conan story, but with an axe that drinks blood and gets drunk on it. So that's the basic premise. It's not really a lot different from the first miniseries, but it is story-wise, but it's still the same premise. But it's still a lot of fun, so I think it's definitely worth checking out, and I enjoy it. Next up, we have The Last Shadowhawk #1, written and penciled by Philip Tan, with inks by Daniel Hinquiz. So, once again, there hasn't been a Shadowhawk for a long time. It's the Shadowhawk was one of the original Image books created by Jim Valentino, and so this is like his final story. And I think what the problem is, it's literally told in splash pages. It starts off with every page is a splash page. So it's kind of like, it's a pretty short story, and ultimately it's his last story, in the sense of he's made peace with himself. And I think the thing is, I really wanted to like it. Because I like what Jim did with Shadowhawk. It was really different once the initial kind of superhero thing kind of somewhat wore off, where he took it kind of deeper. And this was just really, it wasn't bad. It was just kind of basic. It was like, okay, that's nice. But it's really just, it wasn't very satisfying. Once again, it's certainly not bad. The artwork by Tan is really nice, but once again, it's kind of just splash pages. So there's not a lot of meat on the bone here. And I think that's kind of where, for me, it struggled. Not, like I said, it just kind of, it was okay. And unfortunately, that was just not, for me, not good enough. Next up, we have 20th Century Man #1, written by Dennis Camp, with artwork by S. Morian. So what this is it's kind of a rethinking of real life events, or real. So once again, the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, and that happens here, except for there's basically a Soviet iron hero, where it's like this soldier that's in this big iron suit, and he basically ends the war where the Soviets win in Afghanistan. And so it's kind of, so there's that going on, but there's also kind of like, there's a mystery behind how he became like this iron hero and everything. It's very interesting. I wouldn't say that I was necessarily blown away by this first issue, but I think there's a lot of layout here in this first issue. There's a lot of exposition kind of setting things up. I think there was a couple of shifts, time shifts, that were little tough story-wise. And where it kind of moved around a little bit, but I like the concept. I think the concept was really good. I don't know that I was particularly won over by this first issue, but I think there's a lot of good ideas here, and it was definitely something that like set something up really interesting. I think for me the key is going to be like the second issue, to where it kind of gets, now that we have the setup, the second issue is going to hopefully build well on that. I think it's a really good premise. And the artwork by Morian is really nice. It's a really good looking book. The artwork's absolutely fabulous. So like I said, I have a little hesitation because the story was very dense, and I think you can tend to get sometimes a little lost in it. But it's not that it was confusing. I think it was so dense. It was just, you have to I think you have to take your time reading it and just let it soak in. And if you let that happen, I think you'll kind of see where camp is setting things up for here. Next up, we have the Sandman #1. It's the facsimile edition, written by Neil Gaiman, with artwork by Sam Keith and Mike Dringenberg. So what this is a reprint of the original first issue of Sandman back in '89 with the original ads. Now, I won't say for sure that it's 100%. There might be some ads that they did not reprint. I don't know. But it does. It's kind of an interesting glimpse back in time to 1989 when this came out. Because once again, people don't realize that the Vertigo did not exist. It was much later that Sandman became a Vertigo book. It was a DC book. It was Neil Gaiman's reimagining of the Golden Age Sandman character. And as we all know, the main reason this is being reprinted is because of the Netflix series and everything. But it's really neat to go back and see it as an original comic, because I think most people have read the trades and stuff like that. But it's interesting to just hold that comic and kind of see what we all saw like 30 years ago. I mean, I remember picking it up and just being blown away by the first issue, and it's really... It's kind of a throwback in time. So this is something more of a nostalgia thing, or something like you can own a copy of Sandman #1, because they're the originals are very expensive now. But it's I think it's a fun little novelty thing that came out this week. Next up we have Trev Kvlt. I think I'm pronouncing that wrong. It's written by Scott Bryan Wilson with artwork by Liana Kangas. So what it is so Marty works at a fast food place, and so what he's basically worked there his whole life, and he gets this plan where he decides that he is going to rob the shops at the strip mall while he's on his lunch break. So he'll kind of have an alibi, like, oh, I was having lunch at work. And so Bernice, his manager, he goes to lunch, and then he goes and robs. He puts on a mask, and so he robs all these places. He comes back, and he clocks back in, and Bernice says, hey, there's this girl from another fast food place, and she's wanting for an interview. So he's talking to her and everything, and while he's talking to her, the police come into the restaurant. And she says, oh, yeah, I was outside the whole time. So the police kind of ask, hey, somebody in one of the stores said they smelled like, pickles and onions. So we're checking out the fast food places. And so Allison, the girl that's applying for the position, basically says that somebody said, one of the shop owners, well, I was out there the whole time, and they're not telling the truth. I saw it, because she's covering up for him. Why, we don't know. And that's the basic premise here of this first issue. I think the problem is that it kind of just meanders around. It's like an idea that just never... okay, he robbed the place and he works there and she's covering up. That's nice, but what's the point? Because they're really... It's a basic thing. There's really nothing there. I mean, you don't really get to... I mean, you kind of get to know Marty in his life, but he was just like, he's a guy that works at a burger joint. Whoopee. And unfortunately, really the downside of this, and I really hate I hate when this happens, but Kangus's artwork is just not very good. It's very basic. And there's just really a lack of detail and just not a lot of backgrounds. I think there's some interesting things. I think the thing is that there's a lot of promise there, but I think overall it became distracting sometimes at a point, and I think that's where you had really kind of a mediocre story that really didn't go anywhere, and then you had the art that just kind of sat there, and it's a big hard pass on this one. I didn't think it was really that good. Next up, we have Heart Eyes, number 1, written by Dennis Hopeless, with artwork by Victor Ibanez. So what this is there's this girl, Lupe. Well, first of all, it starts off that, once again, everybody thought, we'd end up killing each other with a war. No, there's actually these monsters that show up and they just start killing people. So that has pretty much the end of the world. There's these monsters that roam and most everybody's dead. And so all of a sudden there's this girl, Lupe, who just happens to be out in the wild. And there's a boy, Rico, who is kind of rescuing her, and he's like, why are you out and everything? And she, cause she doesn't really know. She remembers her mother dying and stuff, like, getting attacked by monsters, but she really doesn't it's like she doesn't really remember stuff, and she just it's almost like she has ADH, like she's just happy and everything, she just she's a bit autistic. I guess that's kind of the best way to say it. And she's just, she's just going out for a walk and everything. She's all happy. And so, of course, she meets Rico, and Rico kind of falls in love with her. And then the monsters, and then you find out that Rico is with some other people that have survived, and they're like hiding out from the monsters. And then the monsters show up, and then you find out that Lupe, maybe the reason that she hasn't been attacked by the monsters, that she either can communicate or keep them at bay. So that's kind of the setup here in this first issue, and it's really, really intriguing. On the surface, that story's been told a million times, but Hopeless, I think what he did really well is we get to know the characters really well. Like, okay, the monsters come, civilization dies pretty much, and then it gets into the story. So that was a good thing. You get to know the characters. But really the big win is Ibanez's artwork. It's really a good looking book. I mean, the artwork is really, really nice. And I really have to give it to Kvlt. They've really stepped up their game on the quality of a lot of their books, and this one is a real big surprise. Once again, I don't think the story is particularly original, but I liked what I read here, and I'm intrigued definitely to see where the second issue of this goes. Next up, we have Jimmy's Little Bastards, number 1, written by Garth Ennis, with artwork by Russ Braun. So this is a follow-up to the first series of Jimmy, the first mini-series of Jimmy's Bastards. And so it follows Jimmy and Nancy, and in a way he's kind of like a James Bond, but not that he's a goofy, he's aloof. I think that's the best. He's like an aloof James Bond. And so what it is Nancy's really the badass James Bond, and Jimmy has been put on, he's kind of not retired, but he's been put on like probation. So he's kind of gotten fat. He's just really not taking care of himself. But then it comes down. He discovers that there's a secret within his family about a great uncle, and that's, well, it starts off in the past and it leads into that. So there's this mystery involved with his family, and it leads into like what's going on in the story. So it's kind of, and the interesting thing is the story, there's a preface to the story, because the prime minister who recently retired or was kicked out of parliament, it takes place during his reign, you could almost say, and Nancy's estranged mom is married to him, and there's a whole, as with any Garth Ennis book, it's really, there's a lot of wild stuff that happens. And it's really interesting. I mean, I think if you know Garth Ennis's work, you kind of know going in, this is really a wild book. And I'm a big fan of Russ Braun's artwork. It's a really nice looking book. It's a very tongue in cheek kind of, like I said, it's not really James Bond, but that's kind of the best way to describe it. And it's just a lot of fun. It's not mind-numbingly brilliant, but it's just a lot of fun for what it is, and it doesn't try to be more than what it is, and that's what I always like about when he does stories like this. So I also like the fact that it's oversized, so it really shows off Braun's artwork really nicely. Next up, we have Dark Spaces Wildfire #2, written by Scott Snyder, with artwork by Hayden Sherman. So we have so this fall. So what it is there's this group of prison women who are firefighters, and then one of them discovers that there's a rich guy's person's mansion, and that they can figure out that they can. She's figured out a way that she can get in and steal his crypto account, and so they can become rich. So that was the setup in the first issue. So this issue they head to the house, and because the fire's going on around, so that's how they're able to go in to where the house is, because they're going to quote unquote fight the fire there. And so they go into the house, they get in, and it's going to take like 45 minutes to download the information of the jump drive. So while they're there, they're drinking the fancy booze, they're starting wearing the fancy clothes. And then they discover a mystery guest that I will, we don't know who it is, but I will not say what is involved with that guest. But it really throws a monkey wrench into where this story is going to go. I really enjoyed the first issue, and I think that Snyder did a great job of building on that the momentum of the first issue and the second issue. And the story's really, really intriguing. It's like a high/murder mystery. I guess that's the way. Not so much murder mystery, but the mystery of a possible murder, kind of thing. But it's definitely a heist. It's a heist story. And you don't see a lot of those too often in comics, and even less done well. But Snyder really pulls it off, and Sherman's artwork is really wonderful. I really like it. And he's also got another book this week, which we'll get to. But he's really becoming a really I love his layouts in this book. The way he just does the angles of the art and everything. This is a great looking book. For me, he's becoming definitely an artist to be watching. Next up, we have The Brother of All Men, #2, written by Zach Thompson with artwork by Ian Marin. So what it is you have Guy, who's a PI. He's kind of infiltrated this cult. They're up in Canada, and they basically so he's looking for Remy. Her husband has sent him up there to look for her, and so he's kind of infiltrated. He's become part of the cult, and so they basically, it's this religious cult that is like you need to work for brother 12. He's like the leader. We don't know who he is. We haven't really seen him. And Guy has been kind of trying, he's working on the farm, out cutting trees and stuff. But he's slowly, he's kind of asking people about, hey, what's this and that, because he's trying to find Remy. Well, he does find her in this issue, and there is a really great plot twist at the end. And I will say, I really like the first issue, and the second issue is one of those, I will forewarn you, it's one of those stories when you're reading it, you're like, okay, this is all nice and everything, but there's that twist on the last page that really just, really, when you go back and think about the things that have led up to that, you're like, oh, this is really interesting. And I have to give Thompson really props for that, because that's hard to do, because in a way, while you're reading the story, you're kind of like, okay, this is nice, but where's this going? Blah blah blah. And then, like I said, then you have that twist, and you're like, okay, it really changes the game of what has been going on. And Marin's artwork's really nice. It's a nice looking book. This is really a different book, and that's what I like about it. And I definitely recommend it if you're looking for something different. It's very unique, and also I think it's also one of those stories that really kind of washes over you, where it's very methodically paced and everything, and it's not going to be for everybody, but if you're looking for something different, I'd say check it out. Next up, we have Above Snakes, number 2, written by Sean Lewis with artwork by Hayden Sherman. So we have, so the first issue, we have Dirt, who this snake gang has killed. So he's after the people that are in the snake gang. That's hence the Above Snakes title. And so in the first issue, he comes across, and so he's kind of keeps coming across members of the gang. And in the second issue, he runs across an old, I don't want to say girlfriend, a girl that he knew, little Annie. And so she's actually wanting revenge because one of the snake gangs killed her father. But what's interesting is there's a twist to why the father was killed and how that relates to Annie. And it's really an interesting twist of how, once again, this relationship with Dirt and Annie, and how it's like it's kind of a romantic story, but it's not in a way. And it's really interesting. I really have to give Lewis, I loved the first issue. I really love the second issue, because I think what's interesting is, even though it's a revenge story and stuff, like it's kind of like the man with no name sort of thing, going out for revenge, I think by having this subplot with Annie and all that, and also how, I'm trying not to give too much away, but how he helps Annie with her task. I will say that. And it really shows, I think it really, at that moment, you see a very different side of Dirt, which we kind of knew. He's not just like, I'm just going to go kill him, blah, blah, blah. Yes, he's angry, he's pissed because they killed his family. But I think, he has a conscience, and I think that's really an interesting twist. And once again, you go back, Sherman's artwork is just really wonderful in this book. I love, it's a gritty Western, and it's a really, really good book. I'm really been very surprised, and still well worth checking out. Next up, we have Do a Powerbomb, number 3, written and drawn by Daniel Warren Johnson. So, as I said with the first 2 issues, I'm not a big wrestling fan. It's okay and everything, but this book, I think, even though wrestling is kind of the main point of the story, there's so much more that Johnson is doing here with this book. So you have Lorna, who's the daughter, the mom was killed, and then you have Coberson, who, and this is a spoiler, so if you haven't read the first 2, spoiler alert, that we found out in the last issue that that's her dad. So it was actually a husband-wife team. And so what it is they're basically in a way, the devil has given Lorna the option of joining this, because he basically has watched television. He's fallen in love with wrestling. So he invites these wrestlers in for basically a Thunderdome match and if they win, he can bring her mother back. So there's that. That's why they're fighting. So she does not know that Coberson is her dad. She just knows that this is the guy that killed her mom. And so there's that underlying story that, we now know about him. She doesn't know. But I think the interesting thing is the first match they have is against the Orangabang, which is 2 orangutans that are wrestlers. And we discover that, well, when they get down there, they think it's just like normal wrestling, like, staged and everything. They find out that it's a winner take all. Like, they will kill you if they need to. And so that throws a whole monkey wrench into like that, what could happen. And It's just, this book is wild, but I have to say, what really I love that Johnson's doing here is it's really about the story where, yes, it's about wrestling, but that is not what this story is about. It's about, it's about a daughter and a father, and her, trying to like put her life back together after her, she loved her mom, and her dad doesn't want her to be a wrestler. And I mean, it's really about, and even the orangutan fighters, like, even though they're in there such a short period in time, you actually, this is the key to a great book, is that Johnson gives them, like, you care about those characters, and yet you've only known them for, like, 5 pages, I mean, max of real, kind of screen time in the comic, and yet you feel for them. And it's just, this book is amazing. I am a huge Daniel Warren Johnson fan, and this book is just knocking my socks off. This you really need to be buying this book. Next up, we have Batman Superman World's Finest, number 6, written by Mark Waid with artwork by Travis Moore. So the last storyline was so when Supergirl was coming back in time with Robin got lost in time. So now he's actually in 1892, and he's with a circus. So it goes back, give it to Mark Waid, kind of a nod and a wink to the Flying Graysons. And so while he's there, there is kind of a murder mystery where one of the circus workers was supposedly killed by a bear, and then another one was killed by a lion. So he's actually investigating because he doesn't want the lion killed. So he's investigating this, and in the meantime, so he left a clue for Bruce and Clark, so they come back in time to bring Robin back. But they also help him solve this, this murder mystery. And it's really a lot of fun because basically, so Bruce and Clark become part of the, Clark's a strong man, he's Superman. And then Bruce and Robin, Batman and Robin, are the Flying Graysons. And it's really just, it's a charming story. It's fun. It's a simple murder mystery. But that's what I love about what Mark Waid does when he does a book like this. It's fun. It's just enjoyable superhero stuff. And then I love Dan Mora, but I'm a huge fan of Travis Moore. He's really a wonderful artist, and he really brings a lot to this story. I just love it, and it's just fun, and it's a shame because I know this is not a big selling book, and it's not gonna. I have a feeling it's not gonna last probably beyond 12 issues. I hope that I'm wrong, but this is really fun. And if you want a taste of what Mark has been doing, this is a good standalone issue. It does explain anything about him traveling in time, but you really should be checking out this book. It's fun, and we don't get a lot of these fun books anymore, so definitely check it out. Next up, we have The Silver Coin, number 13, written by Johnny Christmas, with artwork by Michael Wash, who has been doing the artwork on every issue. This is probably, they've had some really disturbing stories. This one, I think, might be the most disturbing story they have ever done. Johnny Christmas has really pulled out all the stops. So what it is, it takes place in 1999, right before the Y2K fiesta. And so this woman is pregnant, and she ends up with the coin, and the coin is possessing the baby, basically, and the baby is like kind of this monster, and it's just like, it's really effed up. I mean, I don't even know how to describe how effed up this story is, but it's really, once again, I love the fact that, it's a one and done. You can read this issue. They don't connect. The only thing connecting is that the coin, it has to have the coin in the story somewhere. But this is like the closest thing I can say is it's like David Cronenberg, it's inspired by that. It's just really effed up stuff with the baby. There's some really disturbing images, but it's great disturbing. I know that sounds very bizarre, but it really is. It's disturbing in a really good way. It's a really great horror story, and I really have to hand it to Walsh because visually he brings this disturbing story to life brilliantly, and it's messed up, but it is really like I said, it's disturbing, but it's really good. And finally, this week we have Nightwing number 95, written by Tom Taylor, with artwork by Bruno Redondo, with some pages inked by Chio Felipe. So we're coming to this is where things are coming to the head with the mayor has been captured, and so Blockbuster's pretty pissed about the whole thing because he's found out that the mayor has betrayed him. So Nightwing is, he rescues the mayor, and now that they have the files on Blockbuster, they're going after him to basically shut him out of Bloodhaven. And that's what happens. And of course, the really neat thing is not only does he have Barbara helping him, he has quite the backup team. And I won't spoil that. It's a nice little, with basically his friends come to help him to basically fix Bloodhaven. And it's really, once again, I love this book. Every issue's a joy. I love it to death. Tom Taylor just knocks it out of the park. It's one of those, in a way, it's like great comfort food, and not that it's basic, but it's just such a wonderful read every single month. And Taylor and Redondo Redondo's artwork is wonderful. I'm always sad when Bruno is not able to do the book. I mean, I know it's got to be hard to do a monthly grind, but when he's not there, he's sorely missed. And they've had some really nice artists help out with some issues. But boy, when Redondo's doing the artwork, it's wonderful. And I love this continuing storyline. It's just every issue's like a little gift. It's so wonderful. And you really need to be reading this book. It's just really, it's that good. It really is that good. That's going to do it this week. As always, public service announcement. I get all of my comics at Pulp Fiction Comics in Long Beach, California. Ryan Skinner runs a great store. He's a great owner. There's Annie, Eduardo, there's Derek, there's Wendy. There's a lot of great customers. It's a really good store, and they offer discounts on their trades and graphic novels every day. They have a wonderful pull service, so that's why I don't miss any of my issues as long as I do my pull list correctly. But they take care of you, and you get a discount if you do the pull service. Like I said, they're in Long Beach, California. It's a great store. If you live or in the more LA area, there is Pulp Fiction Culver City. Separate stores, separate owners. They used to be owned by Mike, but since so Ryan owns the Long Beach store, and Chris and her Chris owns the Culver City store, and her team one of the same thing. They offer discounts. Great store, wonderful if you're in that area. But I highly recommend checking both of them out. They're similar but different, but they're both really good stores. Great customer service on both ends. Which is really, really, because comic stores are the backbone of the industry, and having a great store that you can trust and they'll take care of you. And it's like I said, Ryan's absolutely amazing. And check out they have a Facebook group page. Definitely check out that. It's Pulp Fiction Comics. You just search on Facebook. Every Tuesday they do an unboxing video that shows you all the new books like this. So definitely support your local comic shop. That's always important. And as always, we end our show with please be kind. Kindness is free. It doesn't cost anything. Be kind to each other out there. Times are tough. Trust me. I get it. Things are tough. Things are tough all over. And there's we all have good days and bad days, but honestly, being kind to somebody, just saying hi, smiling at somebody, just, it makes a big difference. It really, it'll make you feel better. It'll make other people feel better. So that's going to do it this week. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and share, and just take care of yourselves out there. And this is Steven from popculturemaven.com signing off. We'll see you again next week. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.